Thank you for the opportunity. Pretty familiar surroundings. I've got half shares in the yacht just out there. Hoping to be in the water in another 4 6 weeks. So pretty familiar surroundings. Today I've got a few points I want to cover. In the last couple of years we've had a big influx of some federal money. So I'll just sort of touch on how we're spending that, and you would have seen the outcome of that as you drive around. So I'll just touch on that, and by the way, I'm not talking about Bull. But there is something in here that's related to Bull. I just thought I'd clarify what's out of scope today. So I get quite enough of that at the moment. But the Bunbury Outer Ring Road. Sorry. So Bunbury Outer Ring Road. Yeah, do that. My apologies. Is that better? Yeah. Get the roadie to help. So, start off, I just clarify that Southwest Region, so I'm Director of Southwest Operations. It's a rather grand title for Regional Manager based in Bunbury. The Southwest Region speaks for itself. I just put up there for a bit of context. Obviously, the bottom corner there on the right, those are our roads highlighted there. I was just in a conversation before I started. It is a very challenging region for us. The conversation we just had was about the large trucks, and yes, they're a challenge, but in this region, there's so many challenges. Whether it's Forest Highway with the carrot tractors in the 110 zone, it's a very sensitive subject that. You've got the wave of traffic on Fridays, Sundays, going down south. We've got farming, we've got the mining, there's just so many conflicting road uses, and the growth of the urban areas as well. Enough said. I'm just going to revisit SAFE system, which we call ROSMA, Road Safety Management System. Some of, if not all of you, may be familiar. It provides a context for what I'll be talking about. So it's about the combination of safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe road users, and the safe roads and roadsides. We can't affect the safe vehicles much, but we try and influence the areas. I've just recently got a new work vehicle and got a nice female voice that keeps saying, please obey all road regulations. I've managed to turn her down, but I can't turn her off. So we're getting all those vehicles and the lane departure and all the rest of it. So that helps. And we're doing our bit. And I'm going to talk to particularly the roadside and the speeds. First thing I was going to talk about is some data. I've just taken a snapshot. Thought it might be relevant for the audience. It just goes to show the data we can access in our systems. So we often get questions, because people typically only look in their own backyard. We get a question, why the hell did you do that there? So there's a lot of data we got access to. That's an example of the rest areas. They're all switched on there on the layers. But it's just an example. We got turning, overtaking lanes, all the different layers, the condition of the road, the roughness, the rutting, the strength of the pavement. So we've got all that data access to try and prioritise with the money. We fight for money, of course, with the rest of the state. We do pretty well because of the amount of traffic. But so just to sort of impress upon you, it isn't just a little group of us that let's spend some money in the show or whatever. And the other thing we started doing to add to that data, we've got a web-based system that uses Bluetooth data, and what that means. So we can put in different routes in the system to monitor some speeds. We can monitor queue lengths and that sort of thing. Moving is the commercial name of it, and I just want to, this will come up again in a minute. An example there, it's got the worst delay time, and I'm going to come to that, the worst queue length, and worst average speed. It's not precise, it's not as accurate as the counters we put across, you see on the road, the black house, but it does give a good indication. But whatever's in the car, so if there's 4 people in the car with 4 phones, 4 Apple Watches, That's 8 devices it's feeding data off. But again, it's a great, the person can load that up this afternoon and we can be watching what's happening in real time. So there's an example, I can't point, but the spike there was the one that it's picked up. So in actual fact, well, the worst time was a couple of minutes. You can see it's on. The rest of the time, the wait times are less than a minute. We measured cable drive on Bustle Highway at Easter. Even though you hear back people say, I was waiting there 15 minutes. Longest wait was 40 seconds. So, which feels like 15 minutes in the car, but it's just an example. So we've got some pretty smart stuff we can use. I'm going to come back to this in the traffic management, and that's just more of the same. We do consult with the police, so because we often get the feedback about speed zones, whether it's appropriate. So we look at the data. We think it is appropriate, but there may be a lack of enforcement. So we do speak to the police, whether they listen, it's up to them. But we've got a pretty good relationship there, and something like that can help. But again, next thing I was going to move on to, as I said, was about the level of improvement we do for the money we get. So I've picked up, this is called Thompson's Hill Realignment, south of Donnybrook, a couple of k's long, a beautiful bit of road, if a little bit biased, I guess. We actually built that, so it was a very direct managed job with the Main Roads people. In this case, the contractor was Fulton Hogan with subcontractors. Nice big cutting up there. All the boys like those big cuts. So this is right up there in terms of the amount of earthworks. And the point I'm making is, yes, it's beautiful. It's got the climbing lane, overtaking lane. It's safer, the guardrail there. But it also cost over $10 million. So, in fact, well over $10 million. So, we'd love to be able to do that level of improvement, but that amount of money is just prohibitive. So, we pick out the ones, and that took, I've been here 4 years, and we were starting on that when I came in here, so it takes a long time to even get the project up, get to that stage. So where we're getting a lot of bang for our buck, and going back to the ROSMA, so the theory, the principles behind this, somewhere between 60 and 70% of crashes are people not speeding, not drink driving, not drug driving, not reckless behaviour. It's people making a mistake, people like us. Could be as simple as distracted by kids, reaching for a drink, who knows, whatever those, just a brain fade, and you make a mistake. If the road's not forgiving, that mistake could be serious or fatal. So what can we do to sort of accommodate all those mistakes? So not a great picture, but the one we got there, it's relatively low cost. As you can see, it's circa $400,000 a kilometre. It's up and down from that. It includes this wide centre line. We've done a lot of this on South Western Highway, north of Bunbury. You've got that room for error. It's got the sealed shoulders, and in the picture there you can see in the top, we do add some guardrail when it comes to the hazards. So it's covered a lot of those, the roadside hazard, the room on the shoulder, the centre line. The jury's out a bit on the wide centre line. Having said that, it gives that room, particularly trucks, if the trailer gives a little flick. We do know that there's some people get quite nervous passing trucks. So all in all, we certainly had pretty positive feedback on that. The one on South Western Highway, a lot of that is a 600 mil wide centre line. The design actually calls for 1 metre. We've had to compromise because if we do the metre, we have to widen more, we have to take trees, and the cost goes from that to over $1 million. So we try and find the balance. It's a little bit more of the same. We do take the opportunity, though. There's an intersection there. We'll take the opportunity to try and improve the intersection as well. It's just trying to find that balance all the time, the level of compromise. Obviously not make it worse, but some of our design people in the corporate end, they do have some pretty high standards. So it's just a little bit of playing around with it to get that fit. Sealed shoulders, more of the same. Now this is, see at the bottom there, typically under 100,000 a kilometre. Just going out, giving the shoulders a bit of a clean up, perhaps a bit of new material, seal the shoulders. We've spent in this region alone, we can be proud, we've done about the most of any. We've managed to get our fair share, as I said, because of the amount of traffic. And by the end of this financial year, somewhere over 80% of the state network in South West will have sealed shoulders. So the ones that are left are hard to do. Caves Road, Collie Williams, Goodwood Road, still don't know why that sounds. So there's a couple of roads there are quite hard to do. We'll get to them, but they're going to require some proper engineering, might require some land. So, but I'm not sure what everyone thinks, but that's been a great innovation, and the stats are reflecting that. So that's just to explain probably what you know. There's a big proportion hit the gravel shoulder, overcorrect, and either go off the same side roll or cross the road, perhaps hit the oncoming vehicle or go into a tree the other side. Roadside hazards, there's still plenty there. Trees is the obvious one. We do hit up against, no pun intended, the environmental side. These improvements make such a big improvement. We'll come back in years to follow and look at roadside hazards, whether that's guardrail, whether we can get rid of, and there's some old and dead and rotten trees. So we will get to it. It's about getting a nice big incremental improvement and then coming back again and again. But in the meantime, the cars are getting better and better. The vehicles are getting better and better. Speed zones. I've seen a bit in the papers. Never a dull moment. Reduction, it's always seen that, just drop the speed. And it's never that easy. At the end of the day, it's a piece of aluminium with a number on it. And if it doesn't match the environment, if you don't feel that it fits, you won't find it easy to stay with that speed limit. Having said that, at times, it is the only, the option we really need is to spend money to make the improvement, but that can be a heap of money. I'm going to refer to Capel in a minute. So speed, lower speed does reduce severity. There's not much science in that. Lower the speed. It can still be fatal at 80, but so that is an option we have to look at. It seems to be a little bit more acceptance generally, but it's a constant challenge to get that balance again. We've had some recent changes to the speed zone policies, slowly being rolled out across the state. It's more applicable to the south, of course, because we have traffic lights, so the maximum speed through traffic lights at all of them will be 70 kilometres an hour, but it's slowly being introduced. The other one is, as you enter a town, lower speed, we've got the buffer zones, 110, 80, 60. We don't have to have the buffers anymore. So, first one we've done is a Coerama on Bustle Highway. So, it's 110, 60 ahead sign, 60 ahead sign, 60. So, no buffer. They've had it over east apparently for years. So we're working on that now. It has some unintended consequences. Potentially someone that's lived and has a driveway in the 80, it's technically in 110, and they haven't been as keen on it perhaps. So, but it's a pretty important change. Seems to be going all right. It's a work in progress. I will refer to Capel as a worked example. So, ideally, what it needs is a grade separation bridge. Having said that, we have to rustle up, 60 million, 70 million. And does Capel get done ahead of Greenlands Road? I don't know. And then now we've got Albemarle and Marriott. So this is where the speed limit, we've got to think about if it's going to be many years before we can spend that amount of money. So what do we do in the meantime? If it means reducing that risk of seriously injured or killed, we're going to have to look at speed limits. There's not a lot of other options. Don't worry, it's not only in a Greenlands yet, but I think it's only a matter of time unless we get that money. Greenland's his first priority. I was going to move on to traffic management. So we put a lot of effort into it, even though there's a lot of feedback on that, and the frustration, and that goes for whether it's people on the road or the people driving through. We must keep them safe, of course. There's a few challenges there, particularly in the southwest. I referred to earlier that tidal flow we get heading down south, particularly on long weekends. We do have the curfews, but that's just incredibly hard to manage. And there's at times you've got no choice but to go down to one lane, but then you get the backlash. But as I said, we have no choice. It is an industry that struggles to retain the skilled people, so the work can fluctuate a bit. And the other thing I was mentioning, we're going to see the increased use of truck-mounted attenuators, the big crash cushions on the truck you see in Metro. We're getting two that we're going to own on main roads at the end of this year, and then we've ordered another two. I think there'll be another two after that, because now with the amount of traffic, we have to use them for the crews to put the signs out. So, and then we're going to start using them at crash sites. And so, again, it's just continual. And it just keeps going and going. Oh, I can't remember.
60 days away from 7 times.
I actually thought it was 80, but it could be 60. No, they are. And we had a hit about a month ago. We had a hit on Forest Highway. Person pulled out from behind a truck and just before the attenuator, and she was okay. So that traffic queuing, yes, if you look there, you can see that nice little queue there. Again, I mentioned that piece of software we use. We're using it for this application, so it can be set up with a queue length that you can tolerate. And if it gets longer than that, it sends a text to the supervisor on site, so you can make changes. So we've found it really good. We were doing some work on Forest Highway, and the curfew was 3 o'clock, but we found we could go further than that. So we can actually use the piece of software to push out that day. It makes us more efficient, so we'll finish the job sooner and get out of there. So there's some really little smart things here. Again, it gives us the queue timer. We had a complaint the other week, some work being done here at Donnybrook, and the person rang up and said they were waiting 20 minutes. And we actually got the data, and the longest wait was 3 minutes. So it does, and the person, to be fair, he actually acknowledged, he said, oh, it felt like 20. So, and it does, doesn't it? It really does. It's like those traffic lights we put up at the bridge or something, and it's timed. And if there's no traffic, it seems like you're there forever. So there's pretty smart stuff going on. Yes, it is frustrating, but it's our major risk, of course, for our workers. It's the number one risk. It's pretty obvious. So now, this is where I do touch on the ball. I'm taking the opportunity with an audience like this, and I mentioned before on Forest Highway and the intersections. So we've got one that's going to be built on the Bunbury Outer Ring Road. Some of these intersections don't have a lot of traffic, so how do you have something? A roundabout's not suitable, and it's very expensive. Because if there's very little traffic, roundabouts work best if there's not even, but fairly, not too big a difference. Don't want traffic lights, so what do you do? So we've come up with this. The J-turn is just slang. There is a nice impressive name. Now we've actually consulted with a number of people with this, and there is a freight road user group with the BOR, with Bunbury Outer Ring Road. So we've spoken to them. We've received generally positive feedback. So as you can see there, it works on the basis that coming up Discovery there, if you want to turn right onto Bunbury Outer Ring Road, you have to go up and do a U-turn and then go down. You can turn right in from Bunbury Outer Ring Road, and it does that separation. It does require that weave, we acknowledge that, but once your trucks are out there, tend to get your way. So, as I said, we're intrigued to see how well this goes. Relatively positive feedback. Whether it needs some other treatments with it, and by that I mean we have looked at the option. There's a thing called rural intersection advance warning signs, which is a speed reduction, which would flash 80 if there's a vehicle parked or waiting to turn out. So that's something that I can't approve. We have to consult the engineering involved. So there's other tools though that we're going to look at. But if it works, this could be a treatment we might be able to use on other intersections on Forest and Bustle. So our minds are open. So yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any comment on that now. But
so that works simply, I'm assuming, what I was saying about the Bernard Mitchell, where they've got that controlled traffic light and speed reductions when the traffic's at peak.
This is vehicle activated?
Yeah.
But you're on the same. Yeah. And there's other tools like that as well, because if the Bunbury Outer Ring Road scope has changed. We haven't got the grade separations. We are going to have a couple of roundabouts. So it may be that we have to have what they call metering in a roundabout because of that flow on the long weekends, so that the other ones have a chance of getting on. And that means that there is traffic lights at the roundabout. They've got them in Perth near the Narrows there, and it works pretty well. So there's a number of options we have now. There's a lot of smart toys. We've got variable. We also have vehicle activated signs. So going back to speeds, it doesn't change the speed, but it does flash a reminder of what the speed is. Particularly good again if the environment doesn't quite match the speed. So there's a lot of different options we can look at now to try and get those things done. Nearly done, been quicker than I planned. Yes, so it's a bit faster there. So anyway, I covered a broad range there, and certainly I wanted to convey that the different treatments we do between the. I hate calling it Rolls Royce because it's not Rolls Royce, the one that I showed you that costs millions of dollars. It's an appropriate treatment. It's that comparatively in money, it is so much dearer versus that bang for the buck that we get for that seal widening on the shoulders, which is terrific. So, thank you.